Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Right. First item on cabinet this evening are the minutes. Is it agreed that I signed the minutes of the last meeting?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. It's also agreed I signed the minutes of the part 2 meeting, last meeting. Thank you very much. Right. Item 2, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Wilkie. Anybody? Yep. Right. Item 3, are there any declarations of interest? No. Right. Item 4, public participation. Now we have I have a letter which has been sent to us for consideration, but also we have Mr. Martin Smith, who is requested the opportunities to speak. And welcome, Mr. Smith, if you'd like to give us your views and on the issue that you wish to raise with us.
Yes, about the parking in Kings Langley High Street. Okay, so thank you for giving me the chance to talk on behalf of my fellow shop owners in Kings Langley High Street. We have been trading in the High Street now for 8 years, and I've been personally contacted and heard feedback from people who have been there anything up to 15 years. So there's a lot of experience to call upon. These parking charges are some of the most serious and concerning challenges we have ever had to face. I speak for all of us when I say we are not opposed to charges, but what is being proposed does not take into account the nature of our village. None of us have been approached by the council for our input, and so for something that has such an impact on our livelihoods. Please consider the following. Our village is a very different customer base and community to the larger towns. I understand that the council has acknowledged that the proposed parking model is based on Berkhamsted, which is a much larger town of 21,000 people compared to our 6,500. We think our high street is much more like Apsley or Hemel Hempstead Old Town, so should be aligned with the proposal of all LWBs being free for 1 hour. We also have only 6 or 7 businesses that trade in the evening, unlike many more in Berkhamsted. Where people do walk to the high street, a lot of our customers must drive to us. Speaking for ourselves personally, we have, and a few other businesses, we bring in people from far outside the area, so walking and public transport is not an option. We understand the proposal set to us is to limit parking to 1 hour with no return within 2 hours, several free waiting spaces in another zone, and a 4-hour limit in the 2 car parks. So here are the problems with this idea. It's confusing to have different charging zones in such a small area. It's basically one straight road. It will cause problems with deliveries. They need to park and be able to get to the shops quickly, and they won't want to pay. 1 hour limit in total, paid or unpaid, is unrealistic. Now, I'd ask you all, could you complete a doctor's, an optician's, a dental or a hair appointment in just 1 hour? What about lunch or coffee with friends? It's not going to happen, an hour's just too short. If you've got limited mobility, trying to get to a couple of shops in just 1 hour is just not possible. There's a great danger of our customers just carrying on going to Sainsbury's or somewhere else that we can get free parking for more than 1 hour for as long as they like. Another thing is workers in our high street, and we personally have 2, need to park for between 6 to 8 hours. If the off-street parking, the actual car parks off the main high street are limited to 4 hours, what's going to happen? They'd have to move their car or face having a fine. What I'd propose would be a much more common sense approach, which is simpler and will maximise our earnings from customers and not push them away. If you guys really want our businesses to thrive, you need to let our customers have more time to shop. We need 1 hour free anywhere along the high street to align us with Apsley and Hemel Old Town, as exists at the moment, and an introduction of a staggered charging system for 2nd, 3rd and 4th hours, not just 1 at a time hours. A simple workers permit for the 2 car parks with a sympathetic fee for all-day parking. No permit and the maximum stay would be 4 hours, that's fine. To summarise, we all know this is difficult times for councils and businesses alike, but the wrong scheme could affect businesses enough to close them down and turn a thriving high street into a ghost town. It could kill the heart of our village. Would the lost business rates be offset by parking charges? I don't think so. If businesses close and people won't stop at all, then you would have no revenue for parking and no business rates. We urge the council to consider and understand the differences between a small community like ours and a larger town, and recognise that a fairer system would be popular and would raise more revenue for shops and the council alike. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Can I just ask, first of all, the consultation process? You say that you weren't consulted. Were you aware that there has been a public consultation?
I wasn't aware. I mean, nobody actually came into the shop and spoke to us about it.
Right, yeah, no, but we've got 155,000 residents, so we can't really go to every resident. But it was publicised that there was a consultation process, and so there was the opportunity to raise issues then, and your councillors would have known about that. Secondly, note the suggestion you make. Have you actually seen page 110 of the agenda? Now, I'm not sure if you've got the agenda in front of you, unfortunately.
I have read some of it. But
Because there is a provision for free parking in two parts of King's Langley High Street, which we recognised as being difficult. Yeah. And so there's that. And then a lower charge for the middle part. So we have made some adjustments based on previous representation from your local councillors, and we have looked at it. We will listen, we will consider your comments. I've got them here. I will discuss with colleagues. I must be honest, I believe we will be going to formal consultation shortly, so you will have the opportunity to put your comments in writing to the consultation process again. I am a firm supporter of business and business growth, because ultimately all income from any service, it stems from business, because either through staff wages, through profits, through whatever taxation system, I've always considered that business is important, that we help that to survive. But at the same time, we have been constrained by certain other aspects. So we will take this on board. We will look at it again. We've already looked at it once and responded to your ward councillors. So, but thank you for coming along, and thank you for giving your attention. And as I say, there is going to be another consultation over the next 2 or 3 months. I'm not exactly when that will be. I don't know. Ben, have you any idea when?
It depends very much on the outcome of Cabinet, what the meeting is, and then ensuring that all the traffic regulation orders are redrafted with what's been agreed by Cabinet. So you're likely to, as the Chair has said, over the next few months, there will be a statutory consultation that will come out.
Okay, thank you.
And whatever happens and whatever changes take place, they won't happen until towards the end of 2024. Would that be fair?
That would be correct.
Yes. So, okay.
Chair, as a footnote, I apologise, I didn't ask to speak in advance, but could I suggest, make an offer that if it would help yourself and the administration, Councillor Johnson and I would be willing to have a meeting with yourself and Mr Hosier to actually talk about some of the issues, if that would help?
Let's see what happens. We are quite a way down the process now, so we're getting towards the end of it. The council has had this before us for some months, and we have been trying to tinker with it and change things to try and respond to people. So it's the fine tuning which is often the problem. So leave that with us, Alan, and we'll come back to everybody and let you know what, and I will write personally to you and let you know what we've come to.
Can I just make a couple of points just to try and clarify some of what the process has been? There are some things about local government finance that, people who run businesses in the high street of a village maybe are not completely aware of. One of them is that, and it's even been eye-opening to get really up close to it in administration. The thing that amazed me was I always thought that the main source of income was council tax. And I don't sit on finance and resources, so I don't get into the really close. But it amazed me to discover that 48% of the council's revenue comes from fees and charges. And car parking is the biggest element of that. It's a reality that cuts in finance, in funding to local government have been in the order of 40% in the last 10, 15 years. And what councils, I think, have been obliged to do is to try and remodel the way that they're financed.
I understand, yeah.
And the really amazing tracking figure, which a colleague repeated to me earlier on, and apologies if I don't get the figures right, maybe Nigel will come in. Decorum collects 60-odd million pounds in business rates. And we retain 3 million out of 67. And again, I always thought the business rates automatically, maybe with some level of adjustment, but not anything like that. So one thing that's, when we did the additional consultation, which we inserted, it wasn't normally part of the process, but we inserted this additional informal consultation because we wanted to try and find out what people thought. Although overall the response to that consultation, wasn't considered high or massively, like a significant, so that we couldn't. What I mean is the numbers weren't high, weren't considered high. I read all of the comments that were made to see whether I could understand some thematic wisdom from it, and there were quite a few people who said, the thing is, you've got business rates, so you need to use business rates to keep the high street alive. And I just thought, with what I know, it doesn't add up. So what we're trying to do here is not kill the high street. But what we're legally obliged to do is keep the council solvent in circumstances where the government decides how much we can put council tax up as a maximum. The government decides how much of business rates we can keep, hardly any. And there's a limit to how much you can put up all kinds of fees. So it's a really, really hard equation. And I hope you can understand from the time we're taking to try and explain that it really matters, and we're not trying to do anything that's crazy.
If I can respond, that's okay. I do totally get it. It's overall on the pinch. Councils, get money taken away, and this kind of thing. I think the thing from our point of view is that obviously it's the nuts and bolts of it that affect us directly, and that's the things that we're complaining, for a better word, about. Things like the fact it's limited to 1 hour. When you guys could make more money by having the high street parking for longer periods of time. Why limit it to just 1 hour? It limits the amount of income we can have, and it limits the amount of income you can earn out of it as well. So, and things like the parking permits for the off-street parking, as a business owner, I'd be happy to pay a couple £100 a year or whatever it is to the council to have a permit for my staff to park in car parks. They know they can come to work, they can park all day and go home again, and that's fine. I know you're trying to stop people from parking there and then walking to the station. I understand that, and that's what 4 hour limit I think is all about. So I do totally get that, but I think to be to allow us to basically do more, and I know you do want to keep the businesses going in the high street. Of course you do. Nobody wants to see a ghost town. It's a horrible thing. But I think actually giving us more opportunity for customers to stay longer would be beneficial to all of us. We'd all earn more money out of it. So I don't see why that's not a consideration. That's one of the points for me. That's the big bugbears that I've spoken to. That's the most feedback I've had. We're happy with charges. We agree that everywhere you go, you have to pay for parking. We totally get that. People are quite amazed that we don't have to charge. But stagger the payments and have it for a longer period of time. You will make more money out of it. That's and to keep people happier. That's a logical, common sense approach for me.
Funny enough, there was an argument we had about a month or two ago said to us, which actually wanted us to restrict the parking so that more people could park and then move on the quick shoppers. So in a way, you're arguing against the previous representation we had from your part of the world. However, I will take away your comments. Officers are present. They've heard what you've said. We'll have another chat with officers. It will be another month or 2, 3 before we get to the formal consultation. There may be the opportunity for us to tinker with it slightly. I know the officers don't like that, but I will talk to the officers and we'll see what we can do. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith, for coming along anyway in person and giving us the courtesy of talking to us yourself.
No, thank you.
Right, okay, moving on. Item 5, referrals to Cabinet. There were no referrals to Cabinet. Item 6, Cabinet forward plan. By the way, you're welcome to stay for the whole evening. It's up to you whether you start to feel a bit bored. Item 6, Cabinet Forward Plan.
Chair, I have one item to add, if I
Yes,
if I
certainly.
may, to March, which is a public space protection order renewal.
The PSPO.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Right. Is that acceptable to everybody? Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Right, that's agreed. So the Cabinet Forward Plan is accepted, page 7. Page 8, Building Safety Plan Policy. That starts at page 8, goes on to page 38. Yeah,
I
Jimmy?
just wanted to introduce the building safety policy here. It is a top priority for the council, and the building safety policy here sets out the council will meet the requirement for the Building Safety Act 2022. It also provides the clarity on the roles, responsibility, and ensure that there are strong and transparent governance arrangement in place. And I would like to thank Mark, who's prepared along with his team this policy, and I would like to recommend Cabinet for the approval.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? Are there any items from the officers? Any comments? No? Right. So the recommendation on page 9 is to approve the building safety policy and also the recommendations to council. Is everybody happy with those recommendations?
Agreed.
Thanks very much. Moving on, we now have item 8, which is the committee timetable, page 39 to 40. Are there any comments to be made?
Chair, it's the committee timetable for the next municipal year. Been working with officers and members to try and balance all the meetings within the year. Tried our best to keep everybody happy.
The one comment I've heard is that having two late nights in succession is not favoured, so we may need to look at that going forward. However, has anybody got any comments? Anybody? Any questions?
Chair, just,
Yes.
sorry, again, I didn't place, just to say it'd be really helpful if member support could ensure that we get the A3 printed version in our pigeonholes, because I've got a hole in my wall just for it. Sometime, I think last year, the year before, I had to work quite hard to get it, so it would be very useful to have that.
Yeah, I must admit, I seem to remember one year we had a coloured version as well. Now, I don't know whether
Might be cooking it.
I don't know whether the budget would push to that. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll stick. If we could get some A3s, then please.
Can I make a suggestion that it should be on a request basis? I don't want to be giving loads of paper to people who don't want to.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Thanks, right. I totally agree with you, Alan, on that one. Yeah, I must admit, mind you, mine's due to I say. Right. Okay. Are everybody happy then with the committee timetable?
Yep.
Right. Fine. Thanks very much. Moving on, item 9, the HRA business plan refresh, page 45. That starts off.
If I may.
Yep, Simi.
Just a little introduction. That this HRA business plan sets out the council's strategic plan for managing and maintaining its social housing stock. This report presents to Cabinet the proposed update of the HRA business plan. It includes the proposed acquisition and disposal policies and the proposed rent policies for approval. The proposed business plan and related policies were presented to TNC committee on 24th of January, and they were in support of the policy as well. And I would like to recommend approval of business plan update and related policy to the Cabinet.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions, any comments? No. Right, fine, thank you. Then the recommendation, which goes to full council, is actually on page 47, the adoption of the plan at Appendix A, and also the Appendix B and Appendix C. Is everybody content with those recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Right, moving on, parking charges, page 96. Right. If I can kick off on this one, we've spent some considerable time between the consultation process listening to various comments and pleas and have prepared a plan which has been changed from that originally devised. We believe that it's more or less set, although tonight we've heard from Mr. Smith, and I have undertaken to look at it again with officers. But this is the paper that will be going to the council on the recommendation. Are there any questions or anybody got anything to say on it at all? Ben?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to raise a point that has subsequently come to light that I would like to include in any statutory consultation that we move forward on the parking, and that is that we also include as part of that statutory consultation for the on-street enforcement of EVCPs in neighbourhood shopping centres. So all the other EVCPs that are located will be in car parks that will be covered by an off-street TRO, but the neighbourhood shopping centres that will have the EVCPs installed on them will be classed as on-street, and it's advised that we include that in the statutory consultation so that it can then be included and we can then enforce if people choose to park in the neighbourhood shopping centres EVCP parking spaces without charging.
Right, so the target is to prevent unauthorised parking by someone in a non-EV in an EV space.
Yes, right. Or by someone with an EV but that is not plugged in, so decides to park in there and stops anyone else from being able to charge.
Now I've always been very careful about the neighbourhood centres. There is no proposal to charge in any of the neighbourhood centres for the actual parking. This is purely to protect the ability for EV drivers to be able to charge at the EV points we are providing. Okay, I'm content with that then. Anybody else got any questions on that?
Chair, just to confirm as well, this is a cabinet decision. It's not being referred to council.
Right. Okay. Fine. So, have we got any other comments?
So just to
can you just remind us of the timescale for the TRO consultation?
So the TRO consultation will be a minimum time frame of 21 days, but that's only after the draft traffic regulation orders have been submitted to Herts County Council and they have signed them off that there's nothing planned coming up in the roads or the car parks that would stop us from doing that. You probably, I say probably because we had about six to 8 weeks to get the draft traffic regulation orders put together from when Cabinet last met and agreed what the process would be. You're probably looking at a 4 to 5 week period. A lot of what was included in the December Cabinet meeting will just need to be unpicked to cover what is currently being proposed. Now, obviously, if there is a change following tonight's meeting and there is a need to review what's currently proposed as the parking, I would need to seek advice from Mark as to whether that would then need to go back to scrutiny before coming back to Cabinet again. So we wouldn't be able to commence with a statutory consultation until we've got an agreement from Cabinet. This is what we want to go out for statutory consultation on. Subject to what comes in, any objections in the statutory consultation, you can then make changes if you so wish, but then the administration would need to go possibly back out to scrutiny, even though you've asked for delegated authority, if there's a significant change from what you initially went out to the statutory consultation on. Yeah. Very confusing.
So if we incorporate the EVCPs into the parking TRO, and then we decide to make some changes to either the parking or the EVCPs, does that mean the whole thing has to circle around?
It would, yeah. The argument is if we don't include the EVCPs in the traffic regulation order and the consultation, we couldn't enforce them anyway. So I would advise.
I understand that. I'm wondering whether we should have a separate process for the EVCPs, if that's the case. Is this a decision we need to take tonight?
It would be good to have the option of including it. Yeah, I can then I can go and talk to the consultants obviously outside of this meeting and can confirm whether it's actually a need to have
Can I
it.
suggest then that in addition to the recommendations that are on pages 97 and 98, we also recommend that we will look at the inclusion of VCPs within the TRO and come to a view on whether or not to do so in time for the next. Will it have to come back to cabinet?
No, I think what
Okay.
you're suggesting is that that's delegated to you as leader of the
Yeah, fine.
council.
Okay, we'll do it that way then. And is everybody happy to agree the recommendations as they are on paper on 97 and 98? Agree. Right, okay.
Plus the addition of another delegation in relation to EVP.
And then also a delegation that the question of including the EVCPs will be considered by the cabinet and by the portfolio holders and included within the TRO if that is the decision made.
Or separately, yeah.
I think if we could just have it just for the minutes, delegated specifically to the leader of the council, and of course you'll consult your cabinet.
Okay, yeah, right.
But just to clarify for the minutes, it is just the neighbourhood shopping centres. The other car parks are already covered because they're off street.
Lovely. Okay, fine, thank you very much. Obviously, I will consult with the deputy, obviously, but no, I'm happy with that. And we happy, right, everybody? Right, fine, thank you. That's agreed. Moving on now to the budget. The draft interim asset management strategy, which starts at page 116.
If I mention.
Yep, fire away.
Once again, this is interim housing asset management strategy covering the 2-year period while they are working towards the long-term strategy. And it should begin in 2025 and we'll bring that again to the cabinet in early 2026. This covers the period for 2 years and it's in tandem with the HRA business plan and it's been consulted with TLC as well. So I'm seeking approval here in the cabinet again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions by anybody? Right, thank you very much then. In that case, then, is everybody happy that we approve the interim housing asset management strategy 24-26?
Agree.
Right. Moving on, the next item is number 12, which is the budget, which starts on page 151. And again, to me, I believe. And so what you have before you is a balanced budget, and I'm rather proud that we've actually achieved that without too major difficulties this year. I think it's going to be different in future years. But I think some of us have heard enough of budgets about today. So, it's there in paper on the page, and I'm happy to consider any questions. Any questions on the budget?
Just like to congratulate Nigel and,
Yes,
and the rest of
yes.
the team on their hours and hours of work that must have gone.
Yes. Just imagine you get through this and then you can start on 95, 96, can't you? Just
Looking forward to it already.
keep you interested. Right, okay, can we have then, there is a string of recommendations on page 153 and 154. Is everybody happy that we recommend to council those recommendations?
Agree.
Right, thank you very much. Right, number 13, which is the Chilterns Beechwood Sang. That starts off at page 287. Now, we haven't got Sharon here, so I don't know, Sarah, if you could introduce that one for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So this report provides an update on suitable alternative natural green space, known as SANG, and it recommends the next 4 areas of Dacorum Borough Council land to be used as SANG, dependent on final due diligence. So this report was presented to our SLT portfolio holder on the session on the 13th of December and SPAY OSC, so scrutiny on the 10th of January. Just to be clear, the 4 spaces we're looking at are Gadebridge Park, Margaret Lloyd Park, Howe Grove, and the extension section to Bunkers Park. So following scrutiny, in terms of any management plans that might be taken forward on these 4 areas, we have updated the Cabinet report to say that we would include ward members and parish and town councils in those management plan due diligence, which was a recommendation from scrutiny. We'll also provide quarterly updates on SANG to scrutiny, which will be taken forward as well. The scheme of delegation changes are laid out in a table. And again, just to kind of clarify, a lot of this is silent in our current constitution because it's still a relatively new kind of work area to us. So the decisions laid out, the first one is once a in principle decision has been made by Cabinet and the due diligence has been done to know exactly what the red line, for example, would look in Gadebridge Park for the SANG, then it will be signed off with a portfolio holder decision. So it's being clear that that kind of in principle decision is with Cabinet and then being able to kind of delegate further items. And the table goes through to be able to set out in terms of the proposed delegation level and the authority mechanism that is then a kind of true record, whether it's an officer decision sheet or a portfolio holder decision. Just to update, there's 2 amendments since presented on the 10th of January to scrutiny. And this is number 12 and number 13 in that table. So number 12 is the approval of officers to sign legal agreements for minor and major schemes which solely relate to the provision of either a SAMS payment, which is around the payment over to Natural England, or SANG mitigation. It doesn't happen often, but there's been a few planning applications where we've granted planning permission at committee in 2019, and then they've been caught by the SANG situation and they need to regularise that with a new Section 106 legal agreement. So at the moment, it's not clear in the Constitution, it's just a bit kind of silent. So this will then make it clear in terms of where they already have planning permission granted and they only need a Section 106 to deal with the SANG situation, there's no new planning application with it, then we can have the officer decision position on that rather than taking it back through any other authority mechanisms. And approval for officers to complete any Section 106 legal agreements where the application is deferred to the Secretary of State through a development consent order or through an appeal. Again, the Constitution is just kind of not clear on this position. Development consent orders are rare, but this amendment kind of adds that in to kind of be then complete. So both of those 2 additions at number 12 and 13 are proposed to be delegated to Director of Place or Assistant Director of Planning or the Head of Development Management, and the authority mechanism is a officer decision sheet in making any of those decisions.
Thank you very much. Any questions by anybody? No? Fine. Thank you very much. I don't think that I've got any problems with it. So is everybody agreed with the recommendation on page 1? The recommendation which is on page, page 288, which there's a whole list there. Is everybody happy with those recommendations? Agreed. Thank you very much. And the final item for today is the financial monitoring report, number 14, which starts on page 309. Again, perhaps Nigel, if I could ask you to introduce this one.
Yes, so in front of members is the Q3 financial performance report. In terms of the overall position for the council, the general fund is still showing a surplus as it has been for the rest of 23-24. Now the surplus is at £236,000. And in terms of year end, I would expect the general fund to be falling within budget within 23-24. The HRA is a different entity, as we're aware. It's had a lot of pressures in year that are alluded to in the report, particularly around repairs and maintenance, as we have been trying to go over a backlog from several years of work linking back to COVID times. And so from that perspective, we invested a huge amount of money in 23-24, which has meant we've drawn down from reserves, and we have an underlying pressure of 620,000. You will have noted from the HRA business plan that we've alluded to that and we've allowed for that for 24-25, but we are still seeing a very large level of demand for this service. So a lot of mitigation, a lot of reactions to that is still ongoing at present. In terms of back to the Q3 report, in terms of capital, broadly online for the HRA General Fund, but as we've spoken about before at this committee and various scrutinies, we have had significant slippage in the last 18 months to 2 years, linked to some of the major issues around the moratorium and around some of the procurement fallout from COVID as well. We believe we're now on a place where we've commissioned the vast bulk of our capital programme or on the process of doing so, and hence we believe that we'll be able to deliver within the timeframes in the MTFS and also in the 24-25 capital programme. So in a much better place going forward. Just to summarise the kind of major pressures we've got this year, and some of these will need to be monitored next year. On the General Fund, a significant area of pressure is around waste. It is our single largest service, and it's gone through a significant amount of transformation this year, a lot of which is coming to conclusion at year end and should fall out into a full year benefit in terms of financial outcome for 24-25. So positive news story is what we are hoping, but again, the service has been under a huge amount of pressure. And again, the HRA pressure, as I mentioned, is around repairs and maintenance, and there is a table in there alluding to the investment that we've put into that service and continue to do so. So overall, the financial position for the General Fund is positive. The HRA is under pressure, but not a significant change on either of those from Q2, and nothing to send alarm bells at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Has anybody got any questions or wish to raise any item? Right, okay, fine. Then in that case, the recommendations are on page 310, and we note the various items mentioned there and make the recommendations to council as requested. Is everybody agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been very well conducted, and thank you for attending this evening. I close the meeting.